her decaying face when you spoke with the magistrate. He called her an animancer. Though it fills you with a new queasy apprehension, you feel a strange compulsion to see this woman once more, if only to confirm she is truly dead. Well, I'm guessing we're going to see the old creepy woman then. Or the old dead woman. She must truly be dead or truly alive. I really don't know. Get that first, actually. Caldara de Berranzi. The squat, distended body of an elderly dwarf woman dangles from a thin, cropped broth that sags at the tug of her noose. The bloated purple flesh of her neck, worn away in patches like moth-eaten linen, bulges over the rope that suspends her, and her lifeless head lolls forward rigidly from one side to the other when the breeze shifts. You perceive a faint glow around her that casts no light on its surroundings, but there is a tepid warmth to it, and you feel somehow that you could reach out and touch it. Reach out and touch me. Not with your hands, but with some aspect of yourself that has no worldly dimension. Okay. You take a deep breath, clearing your mind, focusing on your objective. As you exhale, you feel yourself spreading out towards the hanging woman, perceiving all that lies between you and her with new unfamiliar awareness. Once you have expanded enough to reach her, there's a sudden jolt in your mind, a ringing, electric surge of images and words and sounds. Involuntarily, you shut your eyes and feel yourself being pulled down to some deeper consciousness in a space occupied only by you and the hanging woman. And when you open them again, she is staring at you with eyes clouded in a milky fog, her body still swaying in the wind. You no longer feel from a tree that stands planted in a misty void. The woman gives you a slow nod of her head, the rope creaking as she does so, and she smiles at you.
Have you come here for me, dear?
Oh, my dear.
Or have you gotten lost?
Oh,
Ah, it is both, I think.
it is both, I
Yes?
think, yes. Oh, Mrs. Doubtfire. Oh, am I imagining this?
No, I think not. A pity that. It would be simpler. A mercy even. To not have to wander anymore, no?
I suppose so.
Alas, we are here, you and I. Wherever here may be.
Wherever here may be. How are you able to speak to me?
Is that what we're doing? Perhaps it just seems that way. Perhaps it is the easiest way for your mind to make sense of it. I think it is a very good choice.
Choice. I need to understand something what's happened to me. She nods, a look of pity on her face, as though consoling a child.
The world looks a little different than it used to, is that it? Feels like you're noticing things for the first time that have always been there.
She nods.
You have seen past the shroud. It only takes an instant. Your soul remembers, yes? Remembers how it sees when it leaves the body, like being reminded of a dream you had forgotten. You are a watcher now, and a watcher you will stay.
What's a watcher?
What indeed? Long hours have many animancers spent studying such things. Not I, though. Not I. I'll tell you what I know, though, since fair is fair, and here we are visiting, you and I, and it reminds me of better times.
Better times.
Souls pass on. Some say through Audra stones, which are the blood veins of the world. They leave the world for a time and are reborn into it, sometimes more than they were before, but usually less and seldom the same. For all souls there is a time where they do not live, yet have not passed on. And those souls roam the world, same as you or I, either living or lost. But no one sees them because they have forgotten how. A watcher sees, though, knows what to look for. And sometimes they know a person just by looking at them, know where they've been in ages past when their bodies were other bodies. See memories even their honor can't recall. A wonder to behold when all goes well, a wonder.
What did you mean when all goes well?
Oh, nothing to be afraid of, I'm sure. It's just much to take in for some. Sometimes there's trouble sleeping or other difficulties.
She smiles at you reassuringly, fanning out a tuft of long whiskers that spouts from one of her cheeks.
You should see old Merwald. He could tell you much more than I. A watcher just like you. Helped many in his day. Took up in an old keep no one would claim. Not far, not far. Kanua, beyond the Black Meadow. He will welcome the company.
Yeah, I think I survived Beawick. Do you know why that would be?
Did you now, dear? My, that would be something, wouldn't it? Could be luck, could certainly be. A storm can be a careless thing. Or maybe it got its hands around your soul but couldn't pick it up. A soul can be heavy if it stayed in one piece through its time. Strong souls, we call them in the trade. Cold, I mean. Called them. Those days are all behind me now.
All behind me now. You said souls break apart over time.
Oh, yes. Entropy. Rimagan's work. We know little of why or how. We lose pieces of ourselves when we die and pick up pieces of others when we are born again, but less than what we lost. We tried to stop it with the animantic sciences, but with little success. No. A very small few resist Rimergan's influence and stay together through some force of defiance, at least for a time. But they all succumb eventually, I think.
I want to know something about you.
Me? I'll bore you to tears, though.
I know, but you're fun. Got a great voice. Who are you?
And here I thought you'd come to visit me in particular. Caldara de Berranzi, of the Valian Royal Academy of Animantic Sciences. Not the greatest of their number, but I came here all the same because this was where help was needed.
What happened to you? She laughs, a rasping choke cackle escaping between rows of buttery yellow teeth, causing her body to bob up and down with each spasm. Seeing your blank expression, she catches herself.
Oh, come now. Such a question. As though the answer were plain as a rope tied for strangling. Allow an old dwarf her last bit of cheer. Well, I came where I was needed, didn't I? Offered my services to Lord Radric for a pittance. A humble pittance. I was to examine the Lord's wife, see why the gods have seen fit to poison her womb. Studied her for months, looked high and low for impurities, tested her valence, the permeability of her essence. Do you know what I found?
Tell me.
Nothing at all. A healthy woman, head to toe, blessed with a beautiful soul. Such a sweet woman, too. Meek, but warm-hearted. A few months' time, and the lord of the house demanded answers. For a time, I told him what he wanted to hear, Oh, yes, my lord. She is riddled with imbalances. I must have time to cure her. As the birth drew near, he grew impatient, as lords do. And this is where I've ended up.
Well, that was stupid. Why would you tell her? Yeah, that's stupid. Why would you tell someone? Yeah, it's exactly what you think it is, but clearly it isn't. That's
A student of the soul. Something so basic, yet so poorly understood. But so many breakthroughs have been made in my lifetime. Had been made. Had been. To hear the locals tell it, we're a gang of soul manglers that preys upon the weak-minded. And the worst of us are. But the best of us, the best? Inspirations, miracle workers. My parents were soul twins. Miserable before they met, empty inside. It was an animancer who helped one find the other. Turned their lives around. You wouldn't believe the stories. Amnesiacs helped to remember their lives. The suicidal brought back from the brink of oblivion. The elderly afforded extra moments to say their goodbyes. How soon we forget when we're afraid. It's a fascinating science. A fascinating time to be alive in a place like Deerwood that does not control the research, no? I love the Valian Republics for many things, but their recent caution will leave them behind, I fear.
don't Deerwood, Deerwood, don't drywood, don't direwood, deer, Deer, deer. And I know I'm going to not say that, pronounce that going forward. So, you know, thanks, Berranzi. Other questions?
Of course.
No other
dear.
questions. Fairly well.
Goodbye, my dear. It was lovely visiting.
Caldara closes her eyes and her head slumps forward over the noose, and your surroundings seems to bleed into your vision from some unknown place of awaiting. I have granted the crucible of the soul. F looks at you through narrow eyes. Are you alright? You seemed lost just now. I'm a watcher. His arched eyebrows recede into his hood. Well, that's interesting. He gives you a sly grin, and I expect that explains how you survived the Biowick then. In any case, I appreciate your honesty. Since we're travelling together, it's probably wise for us to share these things. Do you know anything about Watchers? Only that they're rare, and that they seem to have unique insights into certain soul conditions. He coughs, as you just demonstrated. Level up! Level up! Level. Right,
Hi.
to you again then. So, I think
Sure.
this is where we
17
can...
and a half. Sure.
17 and a half. The smell of pipe smoke, at once earthy and sweet, winds its way into your nostrils. Your eye traces the smoke to its origin, where you find a broad man with straw-coloured hair leaning against a mossy rock wall, his pipe held to his lips with one meaty hand. He looks you directly in the eye, but the look is not aggressive. He regards you with a peculiar smirk.
17 and a half. Well, could be 18, depending on how you count the dwarf woman.
Sorry?
The dwarf woman. You were trying to figure out whether to count her as a full person. I think you oughta.
Funny. Because they're small. Ha! Honors. What are you talking about?
The people hanging from the tree. 18 of them. Well, last I counted anyway.
Yeah, they might be fucking 19 with that attitude, pal. Aloth frowns. Is that what you people do for fun around here?
Name's Edér. Though to the people around here, might as well be 19. Don't think I'd put you much higher than 22, 23 tops. You look like the sort that likes to get involved.
What makes you think I was interested in the dwarf woman? He looks at you a moment, his brow arched. He smirks, broadens.
Well, I was smoking over here, saw you staring at her. Twice I refilled my pipe. You never so much as blinked. Your mouth was so slack, I took you for a Radric at first.
I don't Joe have as much. Do you know what a watch is? Like I say, we're going to acquire them anyway, so may as well.
Careful, friend. Let's not use that word round here. There'd be any number of Radric bootlickers within earshot. Ciphers, animancers, watchers. Same thing in the eyes of folks around here, Radric especially. They come through these parts all the time with their cures, preying on the desperate. None of them are who they claim to be. Of course, seeing you with that funny look, I'd be halfway inclined to believe you were having some kind of communion with that dwarf. Either case, maybe I'm not 19 after all. No offense.
Bacon. Good. They don't mean it personally when they hang folks here. I have to remind myself.
The town's had it in for me for a long time now. Only fellow who ever stuck up for me, well, he's number 18 up there. My headman on the farm. Used to be my captain during the war.
A war? Saints War. Only one in my lifetime. Fella decides he's the living incarnation of Eorus. Overthrows Ridians. Marches on Deerwood. Ah! So we gave him Deerwoodian hello. What's a Deerwoodian hello?
We blew him up.
Nice. He smiles at this, but it is a smile of one recounting a joke for effect rather than enjoyment. Who is Eorus? God of his birth and redemption. Formerly, anyhow. Maybe they call him something different where you're from. Other questions. Why was your headman hanged? Got involved. Redrick sent men down here the other day. Said they had it on good authority. Someone in town was working with Kolsk, plotting Radrick's overthrow. Terrible with names. Said if he didn't come forward right then and there, they'd hang every last one of us. No one was coming forward, so Sophan, that's my headman, he steps up and says it's him. They took him at his word. He sighs and shakes his head, his eyes fixed on the tree. Bound to happen sooner or later, if not for plotting against Radrick, then for protecting me. What does your town have against you?
Pick the wrong god. That's what it comes down to. Used to be a lot of Aethys worshippers in Gilded Vale. That mess of rocks over there, that was a temple to him, to give you some idea. Then one day, somebody named Widewind shows up on Deerwood's doorstep. Says he's the living flesh of Aethys. Got an army with him. Suddenly, Aethys isn't so popular in these parts. My brother Woden and me, neither of us believed it. No way was that Aethys. He enlisted, and then I did too. But, he didn't make it back. After the war, people took to punishing Aethys worshippers, accusing them of treason. Got real ugly, especially after the legacy started. Folks needed someone to blame. I was safe because I fought, but then this rumor starts that my brother, that he was on the wrong side. And I wasn't so safe anymore. Until my headman stepped in and said they'd have to hang him to get to me. Seems that's no longer a concern. Of course, the townies don't do the hanging these days, but when Radrick's men come, they got no problem doing the pointing.
Elif glances at you and lowers his voice. You can see why I was eager to leave. Yeah. Who's Kolsk? Someone who got tired of all the hangings. He's on the run now. Probably will be till they catch him. If you're next to be hanged, what are you still doing here? Drinking mostly. Point of fact, I'm on my way out. Just haven't figured where I'm going yet. Not a whole lot of places out there that don't think Wedwin's legacy started with Wedwin. Travel together. Where you headed? Some place called Cadenwa. There's an old watcher there who might be able to help you.
Seem to remember hearing something about that years ago. He tamed that place. People would seek him out for all kinds of things. Troubles of the soul, questions for the departed. Of course, that was back when you didn't have to say watcher with a hush on your breath. A man such as that, there'd be things I'd want to ask him. Don't know why I never thought of it before.
Did I?
Not sure how I feel about setting out with a stranger, and a strange one at that. But truth be told, you might be the only one in town who wouldn't feel some relief seeing me swing from that tree.
I would be disappointed. There's a fine reason if ever I heard one.
All right then. Guess I'll do some sightseeing. Long as you're not the one picking the sights.
On the road again. He tilts his head forward and gives you a pointy eye. Yep, you can say that again. Alright, so bring Edér to speak with Marwold. Okay. Right, so level 3, I think. So I want definitely want athletics. Definitely want lore. Okay, so I want endurance or focus. Definitely want endurance then. So, Celis Endurance fills a paladin and his or her allies with unshakable confidence, increasing their damage reduction and converting a portion of incoming hits to graces. I'll tell you what, I did change that, didn't I? Just making sure. So this is something that extends, I would imagine. Something I have to trigger. Oh no. Okay, that's you done. Aloth, mechanics. Five, six, 7, 8, 9. Ability. Alright. Coats the ground in a slick oil-like substance, inflicting knockdowns. Oh yes. Level 3, yeah. Eats away the target's spirit, inflicting corrosive damage and converting the essence into endurance for it's basically like a heal or carcass. Target becomes paralyzed, afflicted with boiling pustules of foul-smelling liquid that erupts from their skin, sickening those nearby. Lovely. We'll stick with Siphon just now, and that's my 2. And Edér is where are you, pal? Like I say, I've already basically built what my team's probably going to be like, so I'm just making sure I've got everything done and dusted. So you don't care about that. All you care about is this and that. Easy peasy. I love it. weapon and shields. Weapon and shield. So they got 5, so he's got that bonus to. Oh, sorry, yeah. So he's got that bonus to that. Cool. And you're going to be defender. The fighter adopts a more conservative combat strategy, concentrating on locking down enemies that stray too close. The fighter increases his or her number of engagement targets to 3, but at the expense of deflection. Deal with that because I can get the shield to overcome that. Lovely. Lovely jubbly. Right, so I'm going to override that save, whatever you are. Right, so I've got the squad. Got the squad. So what we'll do is I'll go to Cad Noir.
How may I help?
To them before we go. Nothing for you. Oh, I hope that old watcher's still there. Been years since I heard anything about him. What is it that you want to ask this watcher at Cade Noir? Just some things about past, about the war. I've been thinking I've missed my chance to find out what I wanted to know. The old watcher, though, he opens up some new possibilities. I'd like to ask you something about you. What did you do before this?
Oh, other than the war, I never strayed too far from where you found me. Farming, mostly. I was never much for cities. Never learned a trade. In my younger days, I thought I was going to go preach the word of Aethys, just in our temple there. My parents encouraged it. I made so much trouble for them growing up. They used to say it'd be best if I got in good with the god of redemption. Of course, us blowing him up probably didn't help my chances there. But if anybody'd forgive you for blowing him up, it'd be Aethys.
Hey, good that. Did the people of the Gilded Vale really try to kill you?
They did. It was strange timing, because we just won the war. They celebrated when I came home. There was music and dancing. Trumbull used half his grain making this big honey cake. I still dream about that cake. Like having the best lover of your life, but only for one night. And they were all sorry to hear about my brother. Took a while for word of the purges to reach us. Aethasians being murdered in the streets. Cold morn and the like. No way would they let something like that happen in Gilded Vale. That's what they all said. But the weeks went by and the purges spread. Pretty soon they weren't so sure my brother fought for Deerwood. And they weren't so sure I did. It caught me by surprise after all the celebrating. Should have seen it coming after the tailor said he was going to fit me for some new clothes, but then all he wanted was my neck measurement.
Eh?
Nah, not that last part. But you had to think about it. Says a lot about the place I've been calling home all these years.
So, what did you say for so long in town that you hated you?
Well, I'm sure my parents are still wondering the same thing. The Aethasian purges were like this madness had come over the town, like a disease. Seems like when you see something like that, your instinct is to wait for it to pass, even when you know it probably won't. The family whose farm I worked on, they had a little Hollowborn girl. And they heard the Animancers had this cure, the Salvation it was called. They went running. This Salvation, they were putting animal souls in children. You might have heard about it.
Nope.
Giving them enough personality to care for themselves. You can guess how that turned out. Matter of time, the children broke down. Became wild things. Monsters.
It's the weirdest thing I've ever heard.
Anyway, these farmers put the family dog's soul in their little girl. For a while, the girl, she's making eye contact, she's feeding herself, albeit in a kind of messy way. And one day she snaps. They found her gnawing on her brother's bones. Had to chain her up, put her in a cow pen. Well, the mother, she wouldn't have anything to do with the girl after that. But the father, he'd visit every day, feed her chickens, toss water on her once in a while to get the dirt off. Most of the village, they'd whisper about him. Poor man, they'd say. Sick with grief.
Oh, I'm sorry, you've only got yourself to blame.
He was just waiting for his daughter to look up one day and recognize her papa. He was waiting for her to get better. Didn't understand that at the time, of course, but these days I think about him a lot.
I can understand, but do you have any family? My parents do. They took a ship back to Edér when the purges started. Wanted me to go with them, but I didn't see things like they did. It's been a long time since I've seen them. I really should visit, but for some reason I haven't much felt like leaving home. Good thing they chased me out, or I might have never left.
What's on your mind?
I was wondering about Aethys.
It makes two of us.
What is there to know about Aethys?
If you're looking to find religion, maybe you want to start with a god that hasn't been burned to dust, but I won't stop you.
Won't stop you.
Aethys, he was a young man with a silver crown. Carried a candle around with him. Sounds like I'm giving a bad eulogy here.
He was a lot of different things to different people, I guess. Rebirth, redemption, light. Out in the country, he's gone. The farmer. He helps all things pass, seasons and people both. He watches over the weak, does gone, sees imbalances made right. You could see why all the copperless rowdies around here might take a liking to someone like that. He was real popular for a while. These days, you won't find too many worshipping Aethys in the open. It's hard to know who still does in private and who's given up. Feels like I'm the last one sometimes. These fucks. If that's the case, he deserves all the mourning. And do you still worship?
In my way. I don't suppose he expects me to show up at his temple these days. Not much left to do for him other than keep his memory alive and keep hoping that he's just been playing a joke on all of us these past 15 years.
15 years? As far as I know, he hasn't said anything to anybody since the Godhammer detonated. Why worship him then? He grimaces, well, if it turns out he's not dead and I gave up on him, I'd have betrayed my god twice. Even a god of redemption's gotta have standards. I'd probably be born as a fat Anuma's horse. That's not really it though. Not all of it anyway. He casts a sidelong glance. Guess it's more I still believe in the things he believed in. I just hope his death doesn't mean the death of those things as well. Sometimes it looks that way. Why did you choose to worship Aethys in the beginning?
Raised that way. My family's been Aethasian going way back. Suppose it wasn't much of a choice at first. Don't know for sure why my family started worshipping him. Probably because of Gon looking after folks like us.
He looks you in the eye, conspirationally. Conspiratorial. I don't know, I have no idea what that word is. Dictionary, get the dictionary folks. Could just be well that my ancestor did something so bad only Aethys could forgive. I explain a lot about where I got some of my less respectable traits. Did you only worship him because that's how you were raised? Yep.
There was something I genuinely liked about Aethys. Always. Like he understood people better than the other gods. Knew all our flaws and weaknesses and accepted us for that. Folks are at their worst when they're afraid. A god like Aethys, he made you realize there was nothing to fear. Made you a better person.
A better person?
Of course, he goes away for a few years and look what happens.
What made you think Widwin didn't speak for Aethys?
Was his actions. I mean, not when he started his rebellion, and not even when he took over Raed Saris. It was when he sent his armies into Deerwood.
Up to that point, he was sticking up for his people. That's what Aethys does, at least the gone part of him. Those farmers were starving and their government didn't lift a finger. I figured it wasn't Aethys himself. At least he had the right idea. But then he sent armies across the borders, even crossed it himself in the end. Word was he was chasing refugees that escaped the rebellion, wanted to punish them and punish us for allowing them to live there. That just doesn't fit for me. Those are the deeds of a vengeful god. Skeen or Woodaka maybe. or just a man who's lost his sense? I still have trouble believing it, but there's no one left to ask if it's true. Tell me about the purchase.
You sure you don't want to talk about something more pleasant, like the War of Black Trees
Read
or
it.
the Legacy or something?
Read it, don't worry, read it. It's eye-opening seeing just how naked you are when you've got no god to protect you. The Saints' War was hard time to be a Deerwoodian. People thought it was the end times. They talked big about how we were going to defeat the gods, but I don't think there was a man from here to the White March didn't think he was going to die. It does something to you, thinking you're going to die at someone else's hands. There's a rage that comes, indignation. Imagine a whole country full of that. Maybe it might have been Coldmorn that started it, town near the border. They'd march right on through. The rest of Deerwood cursed their name till the end of the war. Some say it was the Eorlians that persuaded the town not to oppose the army. Others said it was just cowardice. It was like the legacy that way. No one knew the real reason, so they just picked whatever one best suited what they wanted to believe. Either way, that town was burning before the first ashes of Eothas hit the ground, and it felt good to the people here to be in control after being so helpless. So the fire spread. A lot of us Elothians went that way of our god. Right? There were claims from the Church of Magrand that she'd actually commanded the purges. I found that hard to believe. Sounded to me like people doing what they wanted, wrapping their god around it like she was a cloak. Then again, that's what I thought about Wiwidian.
What's on your mind?
That is all he needs to, all he wants to say, really. Okay.